Show will start in 1 minute.
Ford is the best-selling name in trucks. It's been that way for 8 of the past 11 years, including the last 5 years in a row, which proves it's no accident. The obvious conclusion is that our trucks offer buyers more of what they're looking for. And it's important for you to know what advantages you have over competition. Because today's truck buyers, just like car buyers, are shopping more before they buy. So, in this program, we're going to take a close look at the most important competitive advantages. And in particular, we'll see how our trucks stack up against the second bestseller, Chevrolet. This is an important comparison to you because together, Ford and Chevy light trucks account for about 80% of all domestic light truck sales. First, let's take a look at how the model lineups and trim levels compare. As you can see, the model offerings are very similar. Both Ford and Chevy offer complete lineups of 4x2s and 4x4s. But notice that Chevy only has one model to compete against both the F100 and F-150. This means we can bracket Chevy's C10 payload ratings, giving buyers a wider choice of truck value in this popular light-duty range. Ford also offers super cab models with both 4x2 and 4x4 pickups. These models can be more family-oriented and provide more usable passenger or cargo space in the cab. Chevy doesn't offer a comparable model. And Ford trucks have a wider range of trim levels. Chevy doesn't offer a trim comparable to our sporty XLS package. But model and trim flexibility are only the beginning of Ford light truck advantages over Chevy in 1982. There are also a number of important built-in advantages over Chevy. Up front, for example, are the standard halogen headlamps. They're optional on Chevy pickups. In back, in the important cargo box comparison, Ford again offers many built-in advantages. The all-welded steel pickup box is formed from fewer panels and components than Chevy's box. Fewer components mean fewer seam lines, which with rounded box corners means fewer places where corrosion can start. Chevy's box is bolted together with over 70 bolts, which can come loose and cause rattles. And Ford's short wheelbase pickup box is nearly 4 inches longer than Chevy's to accommodate longer loads. Inside, Ford pickups offer standard components, which are extra cost on Chevy, such as a convenient dome light. Plus, Ford standard cab models beat Chevy in both legroom and hip room. These advantages are impressive, and in other modules of this program, you'll discover more advantages in 4x2 and 4x4 fuel economy, payload ratings, and price. Now, this year, Chevy is placing a lot of emphasis on their diesel engine. But there are some important reasons why that engine would probably not be suitable for most of your buyers. For one thing, Chevy's diesel has more frequent service intervals. Oil changes are every 5,000 miles, which is twice as frequent as Ford's 4.9-liter 6, and requires 2 quarts more oil each time. It's difficult to start in cold weather because the driver has to wait for glow plugs to warm up. And many drivers may find the fuel and exhaust fumes objectionable. But the most significant drawback to Chevy's diesel is price. In addition to the engine itself, diesel buyers have to pay for a host of required options, which can result in a premium price of over $3,000, depending on the model truck. When you compare an F-150 equipped with a 4.9-liter 6 to a C10 diesel, the Chevy is priced $2,758 higher And that doesn't include additional finance charges which may apply. For the average driver, the diesel fuel savings would take 13 years, or 195,000 miles to offset the diesel's higher purchase price. As you can see, unless a buyer is an extremely high mileage driver, Chevy's diesel just doesn't make sense. And remember, the diesel engine adds over 400 pounds more weight to the truck. So Chevy diesel buyers actually get less payload for a given GVWR. That's particularly important to remember because most Ford pickups already have payload advantages, even when you compare standard gasoline engines. And another important point to remember, our 4.9-liter 6 provides more torque than Chevy's diesel. Ford advantages continue with a wider choice of dress-up and functional options than Chevy. In fact, Chevy has restricted or dropped many options in '82, including their tachometer. A tachometer is available on all Ford pickups. For buyers who want to extend their cruising range, Chevy does offer an auxiliary fuel tank. But Chevy's auxiliary tank is only 16 gallons. And the filler is on the opposite side of the truck from the regular filler. This can be an inconvenience when filling both tanks. Ford's larger 19-gallon auxiliary tank filler is on the same side as the standard filler for greater convenience. And Ford provides 3.5 gallons more fuel tank capacity with short wheelbase models and 2 gallons more with the long wheelbase. When you point out all these advantages to your comparison customers, they'll find Ford pickups simply provide more truck flexibility with a wider range of models and trims, more standard features, more built-in functional capability, and more available options for special needs. And that all adds up to more total truck value in 1982. In addition to the advantages of Ford trucks over Chevrolet shown in Module 1 that are common to all Ford pickups, there are others you'll want to tell your comparison shoppers about. This module deals with 4x2s and the competitive advantages in the areas of features, fuel economy, payload, and price. First, features. Ford is still the only domestic manufacturer to offer twin I-beam independent front suspension on all its 4x2 pickups. As you'll recall, twin I-beam features 2 steel I-beams so the wheels can step over bumps independently to provide riding comfort over all types of road surfaces. Chevy still features a conventional short-arm, long-arm front suspension. Ford's more contemporary design also offers some practical advantages due to a tighter turning diameter. Ford 4x2 pickups feature at least a 2-foot smaller turning diameter than Chevy with either a short wheelbase or long. Fuel economy has become an increasingly important comparison for today's truck buyers. Here's your story. First, Ford's best EPA fuel economy estimate is 22, with the F100 FS, our new fuel saver model. That is matched by Chevy's best rating for the comparable C10 special economy truck, when both are equipped with a 6-cylinder engine and manual 4-speed overdrive transmission. But both of these trucks have payload and option restrictions and probably will not be suitable for most buyers. That's why it's important that you tell buyers about the F100 with the new 3.8-liter V6 engine. It has very few restrictions and beats the base C10 by 1 mile per gallon in both EPA estimated MPG and highway ratings. Ford also offers the economical but powerful 4.9-liter 6-cylinder engine at no extra cost, another major Ford advantage. As you can see here, ratings are equal in the F-150 C10 comparison. But in the big payload range, the F-250 is rated 2 miles per gallon better than the C-20, city and highway. In payload ratings, Ford has clear-cut advantages. The F-100 brackets Chevy's C10 rating in short wheelbase models, since Chevy doesn't offer an optional payload package. In long wheelbase models, the F-100 has payload advantages in both the standard and optional ratings. This provides buyers a wider choice to more closely suit their needs. When you compare base sticker prices, the standard short wheelbase F-100 and C10 models are within $2 of each other. Comparably equipped, Ford gives buyers a $22 advantage in price. Also remember that with the standard 3.8-liter V6 engine, the F-100 has a higher EPA estimated MPG, another important factor in the ongoing cost of ownership. The F-150 also beats the comparable GVWR C10 in 3 out of 4 comparisons, where we have a direct competitor. Again, giving buyers more payload for their money. Note in particular that the high-volume F-150 long wheelbase model gives buyers 84 pounds greater payload capacity with payload package number 2. Comparison shoppers might be surprised to find that the F-150 provides greater payload capacity, comparable fuel economy, and a lower comparably equipped price. Chevy has the edge in base price, but when the F-150 and Chevy C10 are equipped with the 6,100-pound GVWR package, Ford has a $21 price advantage and still provides 84 pounds more payload capacity. When you compare the payload ratings of the F-250 against Chevy C20, Ford has a big edge, exceeding both the standard and maximum ratings of Chevy's comparable model. It's important to point out that in the under 8,500-pound GVWR class, the top-rated F-250 payload is over 800 pounds greater than the best C20 payload. This is significant because payload may be the most important buying consideration with this size truck. These advantages are even more impressive when you compare base sticker prices. Ford's advantage is $225. Comparably equipped, the Ford F-250 is priced $51 under the C20 and provides 341 pounds greater payload capacity with better fuel economy. Buyers of pickups over 8,500 pounds GVWR are interested in payload for the dollar. Ford's F-250 heavy-duty model provides 203 pounds more payload than Chevy's C20 heavy-duty, but it does so at a comparably equipped price that's $51 under the Chevy. And finally, in the F-350 C30 comparison, Ford beats Chevy in the standard single rear wheel model and with maximum payload for dual rear wheel models. The reason Ford's payload story is so much better than Chevy's is that our trucks have been designed to provide lighter curb weights, which give buyers more usable weight capacity for a given GVWR. That's why it's important to compare payload ratings rather than GVW ratings. As you have seen, with Ford, buyers pay for payload capacity, and this means that they can frequently get comparable payload with a less expensive model. An important point to remember when you talk price. It's easy to see how Ford got to be #1 in pickups, with comparable or better fuel economy, higher payloads, more model, trim, and powertrain flexibility, the built-in tough truck features, and lower prices. The deck is definitely stacked against your competition. In Module 4 of this program, Ford's 4x4 system advantages are discussed, including the twin traction beam independent front suspension, transfer case, and hubs. But first, let's look at how Ford's 4x4s stack up against Chevy in the areas of fuel economy, payload, and price. Starting with fuel economy. As shown here, The F-150 beat Chevy's K10 by 1 mile per gallon in both EPA estimated MPG and highway ratings. And the F-250 beats the K20 EPA estimated MPG by 2 miles per gallon. That's because Chevy doesn't offer a 6 with the K20. As for Chevy's diesel, it makes even less sense in a 4x4 than it does in conventional trucks. 4x4s need all the pulling torque they can get, and Chevy's 8-cylinder diesel has less torque than even our 6. Furthermore, diesel fuel may not be easy to come by when you're in the backcountry. Fuel economy is only the beginning of Ford's 4x4 pickup story. Here's your story in payload. As you can see, Ford's F-150 brackets Chevy's K10 ratings in both short and long wheelbase models. And note in particular that the optional payload rating on the long wheelbase F-150 exceeds Chevy's only rating by 450 pounds, a higher rating than Chevy's base K20. That means you might be able to put a K20 shopper whose primary buying concern is payload in an F-150 at a price several $100s lower. Comparing price, the F-150 short wheelbase 4x4 is base sticker priced $46 under the Chevy K10. However, you have to add a dome light to the Chevy and a front stabilizer bar and automatic locking hubs to the Ford to comparably equip the trucks. This gives Ford a price position within $41 of the Chevy, a small price to pay considering F-150 has better EPA estimated MPG and includes many functional four-wheel drive advantages as well. Many buyers may not want automatic locking hubs, which is the only way a Chevy buyer can get a 4x4. With the standard manual free-running front hubs, Ford has a price advantage of $39. Furthermore, the F-150 offers an optional payload package which the K10 can't match. To get comparable payload, Chevy buyers have to move up to a K20. Let's take a look comparing price. Ford's F-150 long wheelbase is base sticker priced $802 less than the Chevy K20. Even when you add a comparable V8 engine, a front stabilizer bar, and automatic locking hubs, the F-150 still comes in $364 under the Chevy and provides greater payload. When you stack up the F-250 against the K20, as you might expect, Ford again is way ahead in payload. Chevy offers buyers only one payload level in this important work truck range, giving Ford an advantage in the base and optional F-250, as well as the standard F-250 heavy-duty model. Comparing base sticker prices, the F-250 has a $468 advantage versus the K20. Ford has a comparably equipped price advantage of $30, even with the optional automatic hubs and V8 engine, which many buyers may not need. But the payload advantage totals up to 332 pounds. And remember, for $51 more, the F-250 can be equipped with payload package number 2 that comes within $21 of the K20, but which beats the Chevy payload by 907 pounds. Chevy doesn't offer optional payload packages, a standard 6, or free-running front hubs in the K20 4x4, which means Ford beats Chevy in price and product, and that adds up to more tough truck value. Ford also beats Chevy in the base F-350 K30 comparison. Chevy does have an edge at the top end of the payload ratings, but that's with the dual rear wheel models, which has rather limited off-road applications. When you add up all the built-in advantages we've just discussed, plus Ford's 4x4 system advantages, it's easy to see why Ford is the best-selling line of 4x4 pickups in America.